Welcome to the Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are basically between events. So we are going to run through the Grappling Conjectures basically not best stats of the year, but stats of the year to basically validate a lot of things that we talk about for how often we see subs. They put together an absolutely great collection of statistics throughout the year. We talk about it occasionally, and so we're going to mainly focus on that because there are no events coming up for the next 2 weeks. Other than We Will Hunt, but we do not have, or Few Will Hunt.
Yes.
That we do not have a bracket for yet. We talked about that a little bit last week. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, to my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We also got Flow Grappling Awards. We're going to really quickly run through who they gave out awards to. We had our awards show a couple of weeks ago where we talked about basically the top 10 in no particular order for some of the best moments of the year, highlights, lowlights, that sort of thing. We've already done that, but Flow's list is always interesting for events on their platform, so I figured we'd go through it because it is a pretty light week. So looking for probably a little bit of a shorter show this week, but we do have some really neat stats to go through.
And we're stat people. We like stats.
We are. I'm like less nowadays, but I really do like having the things that I say either validated with stats or completely blown out. Like, well, I was wrong about that prediction. We talked a little bit last week about also, we have, as far as news, nothing happened this week. Pretty quiet week. I don't think there's really much else. Copa Elite.
I don't think anything's been going on.
Copa Elite 3, the event that Zach and I are commentating, is now having some public cards put out. If you want to hear Zach and I commentate that event, it's happening down in Virginia here in a couple of weeks, February 10th. So look out for that. It's a really, really great time. If you're local, buy tickets, come support it. It's a really, really fun event.
Who's the main event? It's
Hey, Miranda.
I know.
Don't put me on the spot
I know.
here. I don't think the main event is announced yet.
Oh, I thought
there's allegedly some folks coming.
Oh, okay.
But it should be a fun card. That'll be in like a month from now. So
I thought there was somebody on the card.
Yuta Shimada's on the card.
Yeah, but who's Yuta going? Yuta's going against Zhao Costa.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It'll be fun.
Because he went against was it Daniel Maya?
Myra, I think.
Myra?
He went against Myra. I think
Yeah.
against Myra last time.
Yeah.
Yuta's always fun. Former ADCC trials medalist or trials winner.
Yeah.
Way back in the day. We've commentated a couple of his matches, so it'll be fun happening in Virginia here in about a month.
Sayanagi's amazing.
Yeah, he's got some really, really top-notch judo that even he throws a no-gi. This would be a gi match because Yuta's primarily nowadays a gi guy.
Yeah.
But we'll jump into no-gi occasionally, and did a cool interview with him a while ago when he did the cash prize division at Copa, Virginia. So let's move into it. Not a whole lot. We are basically going to focus on the part 2 article the Grappling Conjecture put out. I'm going to say that more slowly because I tend to blaze through fast. That's the Grappling Conjecture. He's a guy that's been doing a lot of stats for the last couple of years for big major events. And so most of these stats are compiled from things like the Fight Pass Invitational, who's number one, some of the trials events, the Polaris GPs, the Polaris Open, like those.
Yeah, and Aiga.
Aiga as well. Quintet's in there, but he has a whole list, and he does the big major events that feature a lot of the world staple people. Yeah. If you're curious, go back and watch the stats for ADCC 2022. He put out some great articles and breakdowns for that event.
And it's good because it shows kind of the trends that are going on in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you either see it and you realize it's there, or, certain things always, like, every couple years something gets popular again. Mm-hmm. And it normally doesn't get popular enough to, like, overtake, like, the
standard meta.
Yeah, in this whole situation, rear naked chokes don't kind of ever go away.
Yeah.
But you have stuff like the one we're looking at right now. We have
you're looking at stats, submissions, basically attempts and failures of the year. Rear naked choke for the events that they did, 50 failures and 36 finishes, which represents by far the highest percentage submission of the year for these major events. Like Nogi Worlds is included on this. It doesn't include a lot of the opens. I think one of the ADCC opens, the first major one for the year, I think Dallas is included in this. Yeah. For like finals. But again, it is not usually including stuff in like the earlier brackets. Yeah. Most of these stats are coming for grapplers at the highest level in these really big tournaments. Yeah. So keep that in mind as we kind of talk through these. This is honestly, it's kind of funny for us, but most of these stats include pretty much only events that we covered, and like usually in the rounds of those events that we covered. So it is very funny kind of looking at these stats because it represents essentially what Grappling Rewind, the major events that Grappling Rewind covered in 2023. And so it's kind of cool to see all the stats blown up there for the reality of the year-end recap.
Yeah.
So
because there are, like, as you go through it, there are some like specialty positions that should be a little bit higher.
In your like, earlier brackets. And stuff.
like Barada Platas. Like the Meow Brothers have hit at least 10 this year. Mm-hmm. But they're in Masters now, so they don't count.
Right.
So
Master people count.
I'm a master
our
too.
People, Miranda.
Our people.
Yeah.
We count, but for stuff like this is mostly the adult black belt matches. So like they do those, and then we go into like Z-locks, which I'm surprised that there's only 2 attempts in 0 that actually worked.
Yeah, on those big stages.
Junie freaking hits that shit all the time.
A lot.
But I think Junie hits it not in finals. I think it's normally him hitting it
in the earlier rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that kind of colors how the stats come out. But the biggest takeaway here, as always, is that I took 2 big things away. Rear choke is still king. Obviously, 36 subs, which the next highest submission is inside heel hook, followed closely by outside heel hook at 21 for inside and outside at 9. So 30 in total for heel hooks, and then rear naked chokes has 36.
But it's also kind of amazing that you also have ankle locks that separated out, and we're talking straight ankle locks.
That's the other thing that was really interesting is for straight ankle lock this year, we have 4 submissions for these events. I'm going to stop saying that after this point, but 4 submissions for those events, and you want to guess for 1 second, guess how many attempts we had. Considering we had 50 rear naked choke submission attempts, we had 52 inside heel hook, 48 outside heel hook attempts, we had 30 armbar attempts, we had 72 guillotine attempts. We had 101 ankle lock attempts. And I think of all the stats that we're seeing, like that is the one that I think is most interesting to me personally.
But I think it's also generally, if you're going to go for an inside or an outside heel hook, you start with the ankle lock.
Yeah.
And then you go there.
We're seeing the ankle lock. Sorry, make your point.
So if you add inside and outside heel hook together for attempts, that's 90. It's 100.
That's 100 even.
That's 100 even.
Yeah.
And so everybody probably did ankle lock first. When their ankle lock failed, they went to a heel hook.
I think it's also interesting. We have the proliferation of more and more ADCC events, and there are a couple of ADCC style events, and a lot of folks that are featured as grapplers on this list where the stats came from for their matches are doing ADCC. We are seeing, I think the stats kind of back this up, a much larger reliance on people grabbing the ankle lock to stop point scoring and to stop positional advancement and to use it as an intermediary tool for control.
And we'll talk about that later with sweeps and how ankle locks become a sweeping tool.
Yeah, but I think the stats really back it up that we're seeing people really at a greater frequency than any other position, 101, going to the ankle lock for at least a control position. And because we have so few submissions here, only 4 submissions out of 101 attempts.
The one that kind of confuses me the most is that we have the same amount of attempts at a triangle as we do in omoplata.
Yeah, we have 28
for both.
Yep, and then we have 0 omoplata finishes. But again, I think most of the events that Grappling Conjecture takes results from are nogi. Yeah, if not actually almost all of them.
But still, the fact that your people are trying that submission that often.
Yeah, omoplata sweep.
Yeah,
but it is interesting. We only have 3 triangle subs for 28 attempts. Again, it wasn't something we saw hit with a huge degree of frequency at the top, and I'm trying to think of the matches that ended by triangle this year.
Marigali did the one, because remember he put the big triangle on his back.
I remember.
But that was gi.
That was Penna. That wasn't Penna. Penna was a ready choke.
Is this nogi or is this gi?
I don't exactly...
Look up. Nogi.
Yep, nogi grappling.
This
so it is
nogi.
We're looking at the nogi list right now.
I don't know. I don't remember who did triangles.
So percentage. So I also love that the Grappling Conjecture puts out like stats. So there's a giant list of everything that he covered this year, like Kayotera ankle lock, north-south, dog bars on
Buggy
there.
chokes, 6 attempts, 0 submissions. Everybody that does those regularly, let's remember this 0 times it actually works.
In a high level, like fine. Now again, last year, we will say that or 2 years ago, we did have J. Rodriguez punch his ticket in the West Coast Trials Finals. Remember, as much as you and I are both not a huge fan of seeing them and seeing people just spam them from the bottom, occasionally you pull a rabbit out of your hat and get one. I also love this, the highest percentage subs. Basically, this is for subs with over 5 finishes.
Yep.
For once you go for it, how frequently you get it. Rear naked choke, 41.8% for the year.
Well, because everything under the eyes is the neck.
Yeah. Armbar is 31. Kimura has 29%. Inside and outside heel hook. Inside heel hook has 29%. Outside heel hook has almost 16%. Yeah. Together, they have almost 35%.
Yeah.
Together there. And so it's like heel hook is still one of the king submissions. Again, we were talking about this on the pre-show. I really like that they broke out inside heel hook and outside heel hook because I was thinking when I initially saw it, I was like, oh, it's weird they broke them out. And then I was thinking about a bunch of other positions. I was like, oh yeah, would you call a dog bar a knee bar? And I'm like, yeah, I would call it a knee bar, but if you're listing out submissions, I wouldn't list it. It's a specific kind of knee bar you're hitting. And so because it has a way different setup, it's like, okay, it makes sense to separate them. It makes sense to separate the Darce and the Anaconda because it's a different grip position. The inside and outside heel hook have different, they're both attacking a similar set of ligaments, but they are attacking different ligaments from a different side with a different grip and a different finish. Like, oh yeah, it really does make sense to count them separately, even though we both call them heel hooks. It was an interesting kind of thought process that I had in going through these stats on the pre-show of like, oh, it does make sense to separate them out because they are so different. And that's something I think in 2024, I'm going to make a better effort to like think inside versus outside heel hook when you break stuff down.
Okay.
Because they are separate. They are kind of different submissions for their mechanics.
That is true.
So anything on the stats for subs before we move on?
No.
Yeah. It was, again, just the amount of ankle locks we saw this year. By the numbers. So by the numbers, 775 attempts on submissions and then 128 submissions with an overall success rate of 17.8. Some of these stats I'm gonna round, just FYI. Again, you should absolutely go back and read this article. It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And the tables are put together really nicely. I think Grappling Conjecture also has an Instagram account, .conjecture, where they post these pictures and they're really great. Yeah. It put your money where your mouth is if we're going to make baseless claims about submissions. Takedown attempts, single leg this year and double leg this year by far. The top submissions for single leg, we had 127 failures and 57 completion. The next highest sub is a double leg with 105 failures and 36 completions. So it's like your single leg is almost doubling your double leg. Almost has twice as many completions versus this double leg. Almost. Next, we also have Dayashi Barai, which is that outside foot sweep from a high collar tie, same side grip. At 39 failures, 15 attempts. Kosoto Gari, which is like an inside reap, and Kouchigari, which is an outside reap. Kosoto Gari, 15 failures, 7 completions. Kouchigari, 20 failures and 1 completion. Notably as well, they include mat returns as a separate category here. 17 completed mat returns
are a thing.
Yeah, no, they are.
And it is a very specific thing that you do.
You go boom and you dump them.
They're fun.
Yeah, I mat returned some today in training.
Did you?
It was fun. I enjoyed it. It's not something I do a ton in training, so it was nice to finally
I did, and the gentleman landed on my foot. Thankfully, it did not crush my foot. But
that's good.
Yeah.
Again, I think we saw this last year, and Grappling Conjecture mentions the stats from last year a little bit. Single legs on top again.
Yeah.
I think we see it because it is the least risky least risky takedown. Yeah. And it involves the least amount of commitment needed or required to get it.
You also have a bunch of different single legs. You have sweep singles, you have outside singles, you have inside singles.
Single.
You have a high single, you have a low single.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have, and there are different.
There's a lot of variations.
There's a lot of variations, and there's a lot of different reasons why you would hit one over the other. Like a lot of smaller people, a sweep single, you get outside of someone and you can take them down really easily.
Right.
And so, and like
guys like Dorian Oliveras and here we see like pick at that far side leg, or like they're not necessarily going to hit something like a knee tap. But a lot of times they can do an ankle. They'll do an ankle pick to a single leg.
And you're not really worrying about them then falling on top of you and crushing you.
Yeah.
Because you get to the outside. So there are a lot of different single legs amongst that group. But
interestingly as well on this list, we have 11 body lock attempts to 14 body lock completions. And we have 23 snap down attempts and 6 completions on takedowns from the snap down, which is interesting. We're seeing a lot. I think we're seeing more upright stance this year than we have before. Even I think at the lower weight class, maybe at 66, we're still seeing the same amount of like low wrestling stance. I'm thinking of guys like Oliveras and like Dominic Mejia. Even Owen Jones tends to have a little bit of wrestling stance, but even a higher stance than those folks. We're seeing, and I've noticed, and again, I wish the stats kind of back this up, we're seeing way more upright stance. Does that mean
you're actually seeing it correctly, or do you think...
I have no idea. Okay. I have no idea if I'm seeing it correctly or not, but it is interesting because I think we are seeing more higher stance because we are seeing so many snap downs and so few completions of the snap down.
Yeah.
And the snap down is more effective when someone is in a lower stance. When someone's in a higher stance, it is harder to snap them down to get the posture. And generally speaking, like one of the first things you're taught when you learn jiu-jitsu wrestling is to pull someone's head. They're going to rise up. You're then going to shoot a double leg.
Yeah.
At least in like MMA, that's like one of the first things you learn is like you pull them down, they pop up, and then you shoot on their hips, and that's how you get them down. It is interesting that we are seeing so few snap downs like completed because if you have a really low stance, a lot of times people will drag you and snap down. I think we see Nicky Rod do this. I think we saw him do it in Polaris, or Quintet, which is included in this stat sheet. I think at least one of those are from him, if not 2 of those are from him. But it is interesting that we're seeing.
I guess they're slide bys. I thought there were more slide bys this year, but maybe I'm wrong. We
saw a lot of them again in the earlier rounds. Slide by we have one attempt, one failure, and then two completions on them. So we are, I think, Bodoni and a lot of the new wave guys, especially last year, were hitting a lot of those.
But then I think it gets a little complicated. Is it a throw by? Is it a slide by? Or is it a duck under? Because it's kind of like a combination of the 3 when you think about it. Because depending on where you're at, depending on where your head is at and what exactly you're doing to get to the back from that position. So we're seeing that. We're seeing a lot more upright stance and trying to get past people as opposed to trying to get under people.
Yeah. I'm curious if next year, because we're seeing so much more upright stance, if we're going to see more lat drop. Lat drop this year is 1-to-1. One failure, one completion.
I love lat drops.
I'm curious if we're going to see more, especially with Mika Galval preferring that double overhead grip, if we're going to see more people throwing for the lat drop, especially with the increase in foot sweeps we're seeing.
Yeah.
Like, especially with Dayashi Barai being, 3rd on the list. Again, it's a non-committal takedown. It makes sense that it's high up on this list. But I am curious if we're going to start to see if that number for next year is going to be much, much higher as people go for more higher amplitude takedowns from a clinch or something. Highest percentage takedowns, mat return 70%, completion, body lock 56%, throw by 46%, knee tap 40%, ankle pick almost 36%.
Are they consider the body lock? Is that the what I consider the deadlift? Is that the deadlift takedown?
I would consider that a mat return.
Is that a mat? Really? Because a mat return, I think you have somebody, your belly is to someone's back.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Pick you up and take you down.
What are you thinking about as a body lock takedown? Like a folding takedown?
Like, no, the deadlift takedown, where you get 2 double unders and you deadlift them straight and then you barrel through them. You said you tried it for a long time and you couldn't get it.
I would consider that a pass, not like a takedown, though.
No, a takedown from standing. Double unders. Grab them in, body lock. Like,
double unders on standing?
Yeah.
Oh, double underhooks here.
Yeah. And then throw them up.
Oh, that.
And then that one.
No.
What is that considered?
I don't know, actually.
Is that its own thing?
It's a lift of a heist.
Yeah, what is that? What's the smother guy?
Wagner.
Wagner. He does that shit. Like, I watched.
Yeah, he'll hike guys up.
Yeah,
we saw him do it at Fight Pass Invitation
I always call it the deadlift because it basically looks like they grab get 2 double unders, and then you act like you're a little.
It's almost like a mat return from the front.
Yeah, it's a mat.
Yeah,
it's a mat return from the front.
And
you
literally
chuck them up like you're doing you're deadlifting.
Yeah,
and then you go straight in afterwards.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what in this list they're considering body lock. I need to go back through on the old articles.
Yeah,
and look because they define it earlier.
Or is it like the body lock like they teach you day one, where you put both your arms around and you step around their legs and just.
That's what I think That's what I think this is, because we see that a lot.
I had a friend that does that in MMA and got away with it for years, and it drives me crazy.
It's a good takedown.
It's a good
because you
takedown.
lock both their arms. I think that's what this is for body lock, is that they're including, and then you're trapping both at the elbows.
Yeah, and it's like the bear hug thing where you kind of walk around them.
And then you do an inside or an outside trip, usually an outside trip, and then you just kind of fold over on them. I think that's probably what we're seeing here for body lock. But again, really high percentage if you can trap both the arms, 56% completion rate versus times people tried it. But mat return is still the highest. If you get there at the highest level, if you get someone's back with the body lock, you're gonna put them down most of the time. 70, almost more than 70% of the time.
Yeah, and the only times you don't get it down is normally when they hook the leg.
Yeah,
when you go up
or they roll through, or they break the grip as you're dropping. But super high percentage takedown is not. It is interesting to see. Again, single leg still being king on both attempts and completions, and double leg being right there up there, and then mat return being such a high percentage completion. Moving on, we have sweeps. So we talked about the sweeps. Again, wrestle-up sweeps are definitely the biggest of the year. We have single-leg wrestle-ups and double-leg wrestle-ups. 53 failures to 24 completions for the single leg. The double leg, we have 18 failures to 21 completions.
And that's all from the wrestle-up.
Yeah, that's all wrestle-up sweeps. Interestingly enough, as well, we have sub-sweeps, like submission sweeps for let's say you grab a Kimura from the guard and you take someone over, like an omoplata sweep, or you're finishing it. Yeah. All of those, we have 16 attempts, failures, and we have 37 completions, which I kind of makes sense at the highest level. Like a lot of the time, I mean, of all the subs, 24 for single leg sweeps, 21 for double leg, and then for submission sweeps, 37. So by far the highest percentage sweep that we're seeing, not percentage, the highest number of completed sweeps, but that makes sense given the high level that we're seeing.
Do you know what sweep wins the whole thing if we're going by numbers?
What?
The scissor sweep. 6 attempts, and six sweeps.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Every single scissor sweep that has been tried was hit.
That's funny.
See, and that's wrong.
Yeah, because it lists
because it should be 100% because it's 6.
Yep,
and it's over 5, so it should be the number 1 should be the scissor.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, interesting.
A scissor sweep, if you're good at it and you line it up well, you can't freaking beat it. You really can't. You have to try to jump over it, which is what I always try to do when people do it to me. But
I love the scissor sweep.
But if I go, I know you do.
Yeah.
But if I go to jump over with certain people, aka Maine, then I just get thrown in my ass anyway. So if I'm
rolling with upper belts, that is the sweep I go to. Yeah. That or a tilt sweep, and I feel pretty good most of the time about it.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna take a guy I shouldn't take over with a sweep, it is either a butterfly or a modified scissor.
Yeah.
So super high percentage, 6 for 6. But sub sweeps, and again, I'm gonna say it again and again. At the highest levels, people aren't getting swept very frequently. For wrestle-ups, you can drive through the sweep in a different kind of way, which makes sense, versus something like a John Wayne or a lumberjack or a body lock sweep.
Well, and the other thing that this isn't mentioning is in your IBJJF finals, like in your IBJJF tournaments, your wrestle-up to a single leg, double leg doesn't count because it's a reversal.
Yeah,
so
depending on how you do it. Yeah.
So you're more willing to take it. Mm-hmm. Because you're not getting any points put against you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could see those numbers being slightly inflated because IBJJF allows that to happen.
Right.
If you're up and somebody wrestles up and they just immediately take you down, there's no points against you.
Yeah.
because they're not getting sweep points because technically it wasn't done with your legs.
Yeah, that's that.
It's
That's one of those weird
it's one of those
particular
weird
rules
particular
that's like
rules.
deep in the
You
rule
have
set.
to get you have to get on your legs, and then you have to establish it on your legs for 3 seconds before you then finish the takedown, or you don't get anything for it.
Andre Galvao has a really good video about it a couple of years ago. After I think Worlds like maybe 2019,
But
where
I'm
he
wondering-
explains it, and like I went and actually found the provision in the rule set where it's like it is one of the weird rules. If you read a lot of rules like I do, it is one of the weird rules that is like an anti-rule. It's like normally it basically reads like normally this is what would happen, but in this scenario, if these things happen, it is not points.
Yeah.
And it's such a weird. Most rules are never written that way. Yeah. And it is specifically written like it does not score. And it was like, oh, that's a weird. It's in there and it's part of the rule set, but it is. Let's take it on sequitur for news this week. IBJJF made a bunch of their 2024 changes for the rule set. So again. This is one of those, there's no events to cover, so we're going to kind of just go through some of the trends. This will probably change the trends for next year. Major Flow Grappling put out a couple, basically 6 bullet points for what changed. Biggest thing is for IBJJF, they made the 50-50 rule with the lapel that they implemented at the GP for Jonathan Alves. They made that rule an overall rule. So athletes in the 50-50 lapel with the belt grip, they have 20 seconds to progress or they're going to be penalized for passivity, which I think is honestly a really, really good rule.
No, I think it's a great rule.
And I think it's very funny because this was the big argument probably like 8 years ago against a lot of the stuff that Keenan was doing, because people that were going, hey, he's playing really well within the rule set, but one rule change like completely messes up that entire game, and it's a lot of work to put all your eggs in that one basket for one rule change, and this is the first rule change that may potentially really make a lot of 50-50 lapel players. Yeah, we had some very, very spicy food before this.
Well, that and I'm just dying, so.
This is one of the first rule changes we've seen that now has, there's an onus for movement and positional advancement like ADCC has. And it is interesting that it's 20 seconds, just like the double pull, and kind of the same passivity rules for that.
Yeah.
I hope that this fixes that stalling in that position.
Now, what are they going to do after that 20 seconds?
I assume they're going to pause it. They're going to give the penalty.
And they're going to stand you back up?
I assume it's going to work. I'm just reading what Flo wrote down, but I assume it's going to work the same. No, I assume they just give you the penalty.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't. I assume they wouldn't disengage from the position. Yeah. They just give you
because the double pull, they disengage and then they stand you back up.
But they're doing that because nothing's happening.
Yeah.
For this, you're in a lapel 50-50 guard. I assume. I would hope that they're not going to do that.
They're hoping that somebody moves once the penalty is established.
Well, the person holding the 50-50 lapel moves.
Yeah.
Like, that's because 50-50 lapel is you're both in 50-50 and one person wraps the lapel around essentially both, preventing them from being able to come in any further so they can only tech out. So that's interesting. Finally, athletes at Brown and Black, including masters, gi and no-gi, can now do the straight ankle either direction.
Yay.
And they say the wrong way. There's no more wrong way, which is, and actually, Flo found a video of Cobrinha Jr. Having this happen to him when it was like, did the athlete move? Did he move? And getting DQ'd for it. And it was always like such a dumb rule.
Because back in the day, what people would do would be they'd push you the wrong way and then you get DQ'd.
And that happened for like a year, a little more than a year.
Yeah.
And then they went, oh, if they initiate it, it's fine.
Yeah.
So it became this weird thing. And then it's an old holdover footlock rule for IBJJF.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that now, at least at Brown and Black, I would love to see it through all belts.
But you're not letting all the belts touch the legs. Well, I guess straight ankles at white.
Straight ankle is fine.
Yeah.
But I just like that at least we're having some like at least that rule is changing.
Yeah.
Like, thank God, because that was one of the more dumb IBJJF rules was that straight ankle lock rule where it's like, well, you can't fall inside. It's like, I've had to teach that for years and years and years. Like, hey, inside's really good too, but you can't. So know your rule set. Now I can go, hey, at Brown and Black, you're good to go. If you're not Brown and Black, know your rules as always. But finally, you can turn either way you want to attack the foot, which is a step in the right direction.
The second best one is next. It is if your hair dye or makeup stains an opponent's gi, you may be disqualified. I've had this.
Kind of like
I
this
haven't.
rule.
I personally haven't had this happen. I've had friends have their gis ruined by a chick with a full face of makeup going against them in a comp.
Yeah.
Where they
Rachel's
actually
had a gi ruined.
where
Like
they
that.
actually like leave a face print.
Yeah,
you.
Rachel has a gi like that has like a big smear on it where it's it's ruined with makeup, and you're like, oh, that's annoying. It was like a new white gi,
and
I was like, oh, that's annoying.
I've had hair dye my gis before. When I think about it,
I've had it happen like once a little bit, and it came out, and it was fine.
There was somebody that used to be in the gyms that would have her hair dye our gis.
I appreciate, again, it's a dumb rule, but I kind of appreciate it puts responsibility back on the athlete to, like, you're not staining the other person's clothing with your attire, which I appreciate.
Do you really not know that your full face of makeup isn't going to go off on someone's gi, or that your hair dye isn't? Yeah. Come on now.
I mean, I have a bunch of dumb colored gis, and I always wash them a couple of times.
Hair dye might be for the men too, because there's people like Levi
Jones-Lear with blue hair. Yeah,
with
like, again, I think it's a very reasonable rule. Yeah. You can't have what you have on ruining the clothing of another competitor, especially because IBJJF has gotten so persnickety with the clothing recently, and they're so inconsistent.
And after Worlds, we'll have to go through the whole the new
all
gi
the
rules.
new gi rules for next year, which is a whole nother thing. Also, this next rule is actually it may actually be specifically related to Owen Jones.
Yeah.
And they got a bunch of big athletes this year made criticism, very rightfully so. Guys on the world stage, competed at a belt, and then were promoted. They won something major at that belt. Were promoted. And then they were unable to compete in the IBJJF anymore.
But this is not that. This is the age requirement. This is not time at a belt. This is age. This is saying a 16-year-old black or blue belt. This is saying you get.
Oh, it's just the blue belt rule.
It's a blue belt rule, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it is. Because
it
says age. It says age requirement. It doesn't say time at belt.
Okay.
So this is an age requirement.
Okay, so they can keep competing at the other belt until they require. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a move in the right direction. Again, we don't cover a lot of blue belts on the show that are not adults at the world stage no-gi folk typically. So I can't really I don't really want to speak to this too much because it's just not a collection of folks that we typically cover.
Yeah, because it's an athlete who is promoted to a belt but does not yet meet the age requirement is allowed to compete. Is allowed to continue to compete at their previous rank. Yeah,
which is a dumb way around it.
But it's mostly the children.
Yeah, but it's a kids rule, and it's like the kids rule. You need to keep kids in the sport and excited about the sport.
Yeah,
it's a kids rule to keep retention. I hope. Again, I can't speak to it. We don't really cover blue belts, but I hope it allows for more athletes to have continue competing. They have a rule now for you have to compete at assigned sex at birth. A lot of organizations are adopting that rule. Yeah. I think ADCC has and IBJJF has.
Somebody else recently, Naga.
Is it Naga did
Naga
as well?
Did.
Yeah, a lot of organizations are having to make rules, and that's the rule. If athletes are disqualified, this is a weird one. If an athlete is disqualified after their semifinal, but before the final has taken place, their opponent will now advance to the bracket instead.
Yeah.
This is a good rule.
Yeah, it is. Because you got some weird ones where people just like all of a sudden win, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, you're like, "What happened?" It's like, "Oh, they didn't push the person through because they got essentially you get a semifinal or a final bye."
Yeah,
and you're like, "Well, that's dumb."
And that happened a couple times.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the big major event where it happened.
Yeah, there's a major event where it happened. We were like trying to figure out what the hell happened.
Yeah, in that. It was a men's division.
Yeah, and it was like
it's happened in the women's division too, but
they all got disqualified.
Yeah, what division
but it was like
was it?
It was fighting. I think it was a fighting one.
Maybe that.
They're all fighting.
Something like that. Was it Leandro Lowe?
No.
Not Leandro. It was Francisco Lowe?
Yeah. I don't know.
He had one where he got DQ'd.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Maybe. But again,
that was the collar tie one where they both collar tied really heavy and they both got DQ'd.
This is a good rule. This is and what it should be. So you're not having empty brackets at finals.
When Marigali did the finger, did they push the guy that won that match through?
Yeah, Hugo won. No, that was dumb because Marigali won, and then they took it away.
Is that what they did?
That's what happened, and it was like...
No, Marigali won, they took it away, but they didn't advance the guy who won against him through.
No, that was the finals.
Oh, that was the finals?
That was finals.
Okay.
So Hugo was in the finals. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what happened there. So that's the new rules for
Magic
IBJJF.
finger.
Generally, I'm happy. Like we criticize IBJJF pretty hard because they do a lot of stuff that deserves a lot of criticism. But again, those rules are all moving in the direction. I think IBJJF in the last couple of years has really done a lot to modernize their rules a little bit and allow for better, competition.
We say this right before they redo their gi rule and basically
and
make you have
IBJJF,
2 gis that you can actually wear.
IBJJF does a lot of horrible stuff for the athletes, and they treat the athletes really poorly. And I'm very happy that there are a lot of alternates.
And now they're sending USADA up your ass.
Now they're sending USADA for the athletes, and so that's my shtick for IBJJF. I wish they would treat the athletes better and compensate them for competing in the organization.
But if you're part of IBJJF and I'm competing, I do not agree with this statement.
Yeah, there's that. So there's opinions of that Maine shares on Grappling Miranda are only his own.
They're only his own and not Miranda's. Miranda loves the IBJJF.
I wish everyone would just use ADCC rules. I'll say it forever. I like those rules. They're a lot of fun to watch. So back on to sweeps for the year. Highest percentage sweep is the sub sweep. Double leg sweep. Sub sweep is almost 70%. Double leg is almost 55%. 50-50 sweep, which I'm very curious with this new lapel rule. Again, this is all no-gi, but I'm curious if that is going to change some meta regardless of gi and no-gi. I think the sports have diverged enough where it probably won't have an impact at all, but it's interesting. 50-50 sweep is at 44%. Berimbolo, 43%. And X-Guard, X-Guard people at 42%. Moving on to passes. Half guard pass, 132 attempts.
We don't really know what that is.
To 51 completions.
What is a half guard pass?
It's all passes.
I know,
most passes come from
because a knee slice is.
So they also knee slice. They have Toriando. They have body lock. They have north south, double under, smash, 3/4 pass, leg drag. Like, I'm trying to think of specifically what would be I think it'd be a half guard pass that is not a knee cut.
Yeah.
That is some sort of other unnamed pass.
It's not a hip switch because that's what.
Right.
Long step 5.
A long step
0.
there. And you have a hip switch as well on that. Like, I'm not exactly certain what a half guard pass would be here.
Yeah.
But it makes sense to be able to pass from half guard. You are only getting around one leg because the other leg is already on the bottom. And it makes sense. Most of the passing nowadays, especially unless you're like Brianna St. Marie and a couple of other players like Roberto Jimenez, we are seeing most people playing from the half guard. Yeah. So it would make sense that for passing completion, you're going to see most of the passes coming from the half guard because that is where easily 90+%, this is a number that I've just pulled out of my ass, of the jiu-jitsu we're seeing is coming from. It's like most of the game is played from half guard now at the bottom. So we're going to see most of the passes coming from that as well.
I bet all 14 attempts at the cartwheel pass were Esteban Martinez.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know anybody else who does.
I'm trying to think of another person
who does a cartwheel pass.
We see
he is the only person I ever see.
Do we see Tynan do one this year?
I don't think so.
But yeah, 14.
He does long steps.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah, Esteban Martinez. I'm guessing that's one of the Who's Number One matches where it's Esteban Martinez just trying to hit that number.
Yeah, like 14.
I would love this next year. Just like what's like 28, and it's just a picture of Esteban Martinez at the top where it's like when it's him and it's got all 28 Esteban Martinez. I love watching that guy. Actually, I got to commentate one of his matches this year versus Tadane at Danforth at Fight to Win Maryland. So that was cool. I've never got a chance to commentate Esteban's matches before, so it was fun to get a chance to commentate him cartwheeling and trying to cartwheel pass over. That was fun. Again, generally knee slice pass, we're seeing 71 attempts, 26 completions. 71 failures, 26 completions. Toriando, 79 attempts, 15 completions. Body lock, 62 attempts, 30 completions. That number, I don't have last year's stats in front of me.
It's all Nicky Rod.
I guarantee you.
It's 75%.
But we're seeing a lot of people use the body lock pass way more than ever before. You know, it has come back into the forefront as a common pass that we're seeing used across all divisions now. Everyone from 66 up to plus 99, we are seeing that pass be used. I am very curious to see next year, like if that continues as people get better and better at it, or if we take a swing to the other direction where people get very good at defending it, and that completion rate. I think the body lock right now has the 5th highest completion rate for the year, at almost 33%.
Yeah.
If that swings back lower next year for major events. High step pass as far as completion percentage, 47%. 3/4 mount pass, which again, you're already in 3/4 mount. It makes sense. 46% completion. Smash pass, 41% completion. And float pass, almost 38% completion for the year. And then body lock rounds it out at 33%. So any kind of more takeaways here with...
Nope.
I love how Wrecking Ball pass is on here.
Is it Wrecking Ball in there?
Yeah, at the end, it's the last one. There was one attempt this year, 0 completions.
The Wrecking Ball is the snot pass, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
Who calls it that?
I don't know, but when I initially got taught the snot pass, like I was taught it as a Wrecking Ball.
Oh, the pass where you push them, where you basically kick them to the side, you kick their knee pit to the side and turn them.
The Riotolo, you step on their leg and pass.
Leg pin pass.
Yeah, that's the Wrecking Ball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the official name for the
I've never heard that called the leg pin passing.
I'm almost sure a Wrecking Ball pass is a leg pin.
Oh.
Because that's what I was initially taught it.
I will need to look that up after the show. This year, 772 pass attempts and 206 completions. Overall success rate of almost 27% for the year. Position totals. This, again, kind of mirrors back to the submission percentages we saw in the earlier graph.
Yeah, it's you step on it. It's the step.
The dick stomp pass.
It's not the dick stomp pass.
No, it's the stomp pass where you push the inside of the groin, you kick them. Yeah, it's not a leg pin pass. That's where...
Well, then why wasn't leg pin on there then?
They know into the leg pin. Leg pin right there.
Oh.
7 failures, 0 completions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Wrecking Ball is the kick.
It's the kick in the groin pass or the kick in the thigh pass where you push them to the side. I spent like 3 weeks last year trying that, and then I was like, this sets the tone for a round that I'm not ready to have most of the time.
Yeah.
Or not with like the people that I can hit it on were like not the people I needed to be hitting it on. I was like, okay.
There's certain moves that I only do when I get mad, and that's one of them.
You've done it to me before.
That and the pass straight up the middle.
Yeah.
There are things I only pull out if I get mad at you.
The beans and berries pass. So going on to the position totals here, it again mirrors the submissions we saw. This is you break this down because I didn't explain this well in our pre-show.
Okay. So this is once you're in said position that you get a submission. So it's the last position that you were in before you got your submission.
Obviously. Back control, 59 achieves of back control and 42 submissions.
Yeah.
Like if you get to the back, that's the most common place by the numbers that we're seeing submissions happen. It makes sense that it's one of those like, yeah, obviously it leads like that. This chart is interesting, but I think this chart really shows where you're going to be submitting from. Like mount is 87 with 87 achieved, 11 finishes from there.
Yeah, because like knee on belly, like the only thing I can think of that you can get from knee on belly is like a really stupid can opener.
Can opener, or you get like I break your rib.
Yeah.
And that's like a knee on belly. We have 41 attempts or not attempts, they're achieved.
Yeah.
You got knee on belly or you got knee on belly points or whatever, but 0 submissions. Side control, 130 achieved, the highest per position achieved in the year with 8 finishes from side control. 50-50, 55 achieved, 9 submissions. Saddle, 42 achieved, 9 submissions. And crucifix, 8 achieved, no finishes. They need to go and watch some Barrett Yoshida matches because that's... I've been watching a lot of Barry Yoshida the past couple of years.
You've watched a lot of him in general.
I love. He's one of my favorite dudes to watch. I love Barry Yoshida. And then all the percentages were what you would expect there. Yeah. So that's basically it, except for year-to-date submissions.
Yeah.
Which rear naked choke, obviously the number one. 321 subs counted as far as this stats group for the year for 2023. And then next is 139 for arm bars. Or sorry, not next. I was going to lump heel hooks together, but I don't want to do that for 2024. Inside heel hook, 248 submissions. Outside heel hook, 145. So if you put those two together, it's 403.
Yeah.
Heel hooks this year if you don't separate them out versus 321 rear naked chokes.
So what this is, because my brain is not working this late into the night after 2 training sessions, this is just everything added up that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. This is just the total.
Yeah.
It's by year-to-date submission totals.
These are attempts and getting it. Both.
No, submissions, I think.
No, this is the attempts and what we got total. This is just the chart that we started added together.
As you can see, total submission stats for the year. You might be thinking, why? This is literally from the article. Why are there more subs than above? There were a few events that I've recorded submissions for, but not attempts.
Okay.
So it's just subs for events that you watched.
Yeah, but
It's been a long couple of days.
I trained twice today. I've gotten my ass beat in both.
Yeah, there was like 6 black belts we just trained with.
I know,
and a bunch of brown belts, and it was
this morning
it was brown and black.
Way,
that was the group today. It was a good room, but it was fun. Notably here as well. So for other big submissions, guillotine is at 67, triangle is 59, Darce is 27, armbar is 139, knee bar is 57, ankle lock is 82, Kimura is 24. Toe hold is 27, and then you and I talked about this earlier. Arm triangle is at 46.
Yeah, I think it's the smother is 17.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of times they try a smother, and then when the smother doesn't work, they go arm triangle. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where that kind of
I'm curious
goes.
If we're gonna see next year more smothers or less smothers, because we're seeing, especially the new wave camp.
I think sometimes a smother is achieved because your person panics.
Yeah, I think,
and I think there's a couple guys that don't give a shit if their nose gets broken.
Yeah,
and I think now that they know that the worst thing that's going to happen is their nose gets broken, they're just like, "Fuck it, I don't care."
I think a lot of people also know their nose can get broken. Will tap to a broken nose, which I think is not unreasonable. If a bone in your face breaks, like the face is kind of important for stuff. It is reasonable to tap to that.
I don't know. That's another submission that I'm like, whatever.
I've tapped to a smother before.
I have too, but I think that.
Josh Weinstock of the Grappling Rewind almost broke my nose I think 2 weeks ago.
Did he?
And I tapped to it I think 4 or 6 weeks ago, and then this last week we trained that I moved my head enough to have it just hurt my jaw and not my nose. But I thought he was gonna break my nose a couple of weeks ago, and I laughed. I was like, you almost got me there. I'm curious if we're gonna have more smothers.
I hope they go away.
I kind of do too. It's not something we see at the lower weight classes with any degree of frequency. It's more so a big, very strong guy move. And again, it's a very effective move. Look at Big Dan. That dude and him and Gordon can crush your face. Mergali can crush your face with that technique. It is a very valid submission at those weight classes.
Us little people don't. I
just don't find it super interesting to watch. It's like Dean Lister versus Josh Barnett. It's like, yeah, man, the big guys can do that. Not a lot of the guys at the smaller weight classes can put that much force into the neck. It kind of is what it is. Also, some niche submissions here. We have a Sulaev stretch in here, a Lin's lock, no arm triangle, dog bars in there.
What is a Lin's lock?
Lin's lock is, I'll show you after.
Okay. What body part is it used with?
It's a foot lock.
Okay.
No, sorry, it's I'm blanking. It's not.
See, even us, we even fall short sometimes.
Yeah, it's gonna kill me now.
I'm gonna look it up.
Brada Plot is on here. Twister's on here. Texas Cloverleaf is on here. Actually, this is Texas Clover Lead, but I know it is Texas Clover Leaf. Side triangle.
It's a leg thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a corkscrew lock.
Oh,
a Lin's lock and a corkscrew lock are the same thing. That's the word I couldn't come up with.
Oh, okay.
Like Michael Venom Page.
It's a toe hold.
Yeah, it's a reverse toe hold essentially with the hands. It's not with the hands and the forearms.
Oh.
So it's what Michael Venom.
Hand estima.
Yeah, essentially, it's what Michael Venom Page hit in Bellator a couple years ago. The corkscrew lock. That's a Lin's lock.
Named after Italio Linz.
Yeah, he used to hit guys with it. So that's the biggest. That's the stats for the year. Again, I really appreciate Grappling Conjecture putting the work and putting these things together.
But that's only page 1. What did page 2?
What do you mean page 2? We went to page 2 first.
Oh, did we do?
Because page 1 is all of the activity stats for the year.
Okay, and page 2 is the actual. Okay,
is actual stats.
Got it.
So we're not going to run through a lot of the activity stats. We talked about this on the pre-show.
I know we did, and then
like I
said, it's getting past my bedtime at this point, so.
We are not going to run through a lot of the activity stats. They're interesting, but we kind of talked about in the audio or in the video podcast without overlays. It's really hard to explain our way through
but it's,
what they look like.
Yeah, but it's definitely something you should look into because it's interesting to see.
It shows us that Polaris was hot fire.
Yeah.
And oh my God, Polaris announced a welterweight GP.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the Polaris GP. Like, Polaris put on 2 GPs this year: the women's GP
Dude, when is
and the
it?
men's GP.
Because we could go.
I know my wife's got to get her passport together.
Oh yeah.
And it's in. She sent it in.
She sent it in good.
We were
gonna go see a volcano. We couldn't go see the volcano.
Is it gone now?
It's gone.
Oh.
The volcano has ended in Iceland. We cannot see it now. Anyway.
Polaris GP is, I don't know actually when.
Anyway, just keep on going. Just keep on talking.
I'm so excited for Polaris GP for the welterweights.
Yeah.
Like, I want Polaris.
It's
I love
in
regular Polaris cards.
February-ish, I think.
I would love Polaris. Every single card should just run a GP. The men's GP and the women's GP were 2 of the best events of the year. And like, man, Polaris has sort of figured it out. They know how to keep people active. Great time. Super fun to watch.
March 23rd.
March 23rd.
So we still have time. And it's in Wales. I've never been to Wales before.
I've never been to UK, England,
I haven't
Ireland, any of those. I've never been to Europe, actually.
Really?
No.
I've
I just
been
thought
to-
of it. Yeah.
I've
Been to
here.
Australia. I've never been to Europe. So, yeah. So there's some other great stats here for activity and for, like sweeps per minute and time. And it's a really interesting breakdown of essentially how frequently passes, sweeps, attempts, and submission attempts are happening throughout the round, throughout per 5-minute time increments of matches. And so
It's stat stuff for nerdy people like us.
Yeah. it's really cool. You also see, I think, very funny, there's a couple of outliers like sub attempts and subs.
Yeah.
If you look like things like Quintet and Aiga finals, when there is a bit of mismatch here and
Yeah.
there, you have a much higher percentage rate of submissions
Yeah.
than a lot of the other events. But yeah, again, I love the Grappling Conjecture puts these together. It really lets us put our money where our mouth is for the trends of the year.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious, again, next year, how these are going to shake out, how they're going to differ, because we do see, the trends change in grappling, and people are grabbing the hell out of ankle locks. So that's all I got. Short show this week. Miranda.
No, we didn't do the flow awards.
Oh, yeah, Flow Awards. Flow Grappling Awards. Male Grappler of the Year is Nicholas Margali. 14 wins, 10 submissions. He's doing gi and no gi.
Yeah.
He's kind of doing the thing that guys do when they get to the top. They do the majors,
Yeah.
and that's about it.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a hugely rigorous
He
competition
left for
schedule.
Brazil and dyed his hair blonde.
Is he blonde now?
He's blonde now.
Huh. Interesting.
And he always has a very voluptuous woman in the background whenever he
Every
does
picture,
posts.
and it is.
I mean, and he does
It's
it.
very
I'm
funny.
pretty sure he does it purposefully.
Oh yeah,
because
yeah, he seems like the guy that would do it purposely.
because it's always there in the background.
Yes.
You're just like, look in the background. But
and his head is always on the side,
Yeah.
and the woman is always almost in center frame.
yeah, it's
so
almost like he's trying to take the picture without her knowing, but
good
she
for
has
you.
to know.
She knows.
So yeah,
Good for you, Margali.
Yeah.
You are Male Grappler of the Year for Flow. Female Grappler of the Year. We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Fionn Davies. You win. You win everything.
yeah.
Gi and no gi, double gold IBJJF Worlds.
And he talked a
who's
bunch.
number one
And
championship.
he talked a bunch of shit to Jasmine Rocha, then did it.
And then like that match went from being like a match that people are excited about to
Yeah.
that almost got some large, like people in our gym that don't usually watch grappling
Yeah.
were keyed into that because those two women, again, very rarely does a press conference actually generate hype.
Yeah.
Those two women did a great job in actually generating beef and hype for
Yeah.
their matchup in like a way that felt real. And then
Because it
delivered.
was real.
That it was good.
Yeah.
Like, I usually hate that kind of stuff, but that one, especially because it was Fionn, like seeming to be get upset and get
Yeah.
on the mic as well. Like, I appreciate it. Like,
Yeah.
Fionn, very, very deserved. Winner breakout of the year is Joseph Chen. Very reasonable. You went from a guy that not a lot of folks knew about. He was on Who's Number One last year.
Yeah.
But winning,
Everything.
winning a bunch of stuff, going to Aiga as a member of Alion. He was on Quintet. He was on, he won Trials,
Yeah.
which I think was what most people put him on the map, beating Langacker and beating Taza in the same bracket at Trials, two
And-
ADCC Trials winners.
And Polish Mateus.
And he beat Mateusz Kaczynski
Yeah.
as well
After Polish Mateus broke his leg.
in the
years
previous
before.
Trials.
Yeah.
Year before or 2 years before?
2 years before. I
2 years
believe.
before. Yeah, so Joseph Chen, very deserving of that title. Match of the year.
Isn't Polish Mateus coming stateside? Isn't he?
I think he is.
I think he's training at like B team or B team.
I think he's
right?
the B team, yeah, with Kaczynski.
Yeah.
He goes to beat him occasionally.
Yeah.
because all the guys were talking about the shotgun ankle lock, and they were like, he's very good at that.
Yeah. So maybe he won't be Polish Mateus for long. I'll have to say Szczynski.
Mateus Szczynski. You'll have to learn how to say his last name
I'll
finally.
have to learn how to
After
say his last name.
3 years almost?
Yeah.
Match of the year, Mika Galvão versus Jay Rodriguez. B Team has the best social media in jiu-jitsu. They put out,
great.
There's a video of inside B Team of J Rod getting the plaque.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't have a lot of medals. I don't really know where to put this.
Yeah.
And they were like, put it next to your candy. He goes, I'm done, man. I'm done eating all the candy. It was a great moment. And then they interview his brother, and his brother goes, but I asked him to win it, but it's a good match.
Yeah.
And it was like a funny, almost behind the stick curtain thing of him actually like getting the award and seemingly looking pretty happy about it.
Did you see he also started a new
a podcast? I did.
And they did all their pictures for the podcast are them in denim.
Yep. And then like doing prom photos with each other. It's like, what is Doghouse?
Yeah,
Doghouse. I haven't listened to it yet, but yeah.
It's only on YouTube. You can't find it on, because I went to look for it otherwise and could not find it.
Submission. So that's again the match of the year. Also in the same bracket, and we talked about this would probably be on that list. Mika Galvão's flying armbar win over.
I don't like this.
Over PJ Barch. Yeah, this was a weird one
don't
because.
Like this because PJ Barch basically got knocked out
20 seconds before?
20 seconds before and was like, whatever, because he's that kind of dude.
He's a gangster.
And
he also just had a super tough match with Andrew Tackett before. And then he lost the match and then came back in because Tackett was injured and then got knocked out and then got. It's like, this feels kind of like not. It's an insane submission.
But it's an insane submission because the dude was concussed.
Partially knocked out beforehand.
He was concussed.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Which just feels like a little kind of stacking the chips in your favor on that one.
And I feel bad because PJ Barch, he gets screwed over so much.
Yeah, he does.
He does. He gets the bad side.
You beat JT Torres, 2-time returning ADCC champion, and then fight Cade Rotolo and get armbarred out in a match you're winning to the guy who's going to be champion. You're like, what a roll of the dice, man.
He gets some bad luck.
Yeah. Dude is a phenomenally fun grappler to watch. Again, Mika Galvão. It is a phenomenal sub. The context behind it makes us kind of go,
yeah.
But it was certainly one of the highlights of the year, for sub. I do think, again, you can't put it on there because of the round it happened in, but Cody Steele's sub off the mat at ADCC.
Yeah,
I think
that's
like
a
that.
little more fun.
Well, it got so many people, like the wider media audience saw that. But again, this is, I think,
look at the
highlight.
screenshot of PJ Barch's face. He's like, oh fuck.
He's like, this is bad. So that's Full Grappling's awards. Again, kind of what we thought was going to happen, but again, everyone very, very deserving of their titles for the year, and it was a lot of fun. Now, because am I forgetting anything else?
No.
Next week we have Few Will Hunt, which is the ADCC style tournament that the finishers folks are running. Looking forward to that. We have names for it. We talked to them a couple of weeks ago. We don't have any brackets for anything yet. I'm really excited. I've talked about this previously on the show. Really excited that we're seeing more organizations using the ADCC rules. I really hope we see a larger proliferation in 2024 and we can get athletes into the trials and the World Championships with way more ADCC experience because it's only going to bring the level up. And
we'll also be able to preview the ADXC2.
Oh, yeah, we got a card for that this week as well.
Because that's Aljamain Sterling versus Chase Hooper, Pedro Romalo versus Max Lindbald, Bruno Lima versus Manuel Hibamar, Gabriel Souza versus Yuta Shimada, and Sydney Outlaw versus Terrence McKinley.
Also, Fionn Davies versus Panera was on here as well.
Yeah, that was recent, I think.
Okay,
I
have the newer one. It's a really fun. It'll be a fun card. Again, we talked about the ADXC format. It is basically AJP, UAE JJF's pro side.
But it's in a cage.
Yes.
Yeah.
The last one was. It was rounds. We weren't a huge fan of the format.
Yeah.
So I hope they make some changes. Again, UAE JJF and AJP have a lot of cash behind it, so I hope it turns out well.
wonder also now if we have Gabriel Souza on a card, we should just expect Fionn to be on the card too.
I hope. I mean, they're not on. They support each other on a lot of those cards, but a lot of times they're not both on the card. I would love to see it, though. Those are both two very fun grapplers to see on the card. So I would love to see it.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, put them both on the card. They're both going to be there.
Yeah.
Put them both on the card. So, Miranda, I got nothing else this week. Anything else going on this week?
I'm going to Alabama.
Mm.
Yes, Alabama.
Shout out to Alabama to all the folks that listen from
Yeah,
Alabama.
if you listen to Alabama,
Hello.
I'll be there.
I'm going to Georgia in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you got
so I'm prepping for
you
that.
got some time. And then we have Euros coming up.
Yep, Euros is coming up. That'll be fun. IBJJF Euros is always fun because it kind of kicks off the year for the first major. It is the first major of the year for IBJJF.
Yeah, the new rules kick in.
Immediately. So all the gi sizing stuff, all the other...
No. Gi sizing doesn't start until... The new gi sizing rules isn't until 2024 Worlds.
Oh, this year's World. Oh, so June.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was... Yeah, it wasn't calendar year.
Not
Yep.
yet.
But
Yeah.
these new rules we talked about in the middle of the show are in effect January 1st. So hopefully we see some inside footlocks and everyone goes, oh my God, it's crazy. He tapped and his knee didn't
Langaker
explode.
doesn't have his leg explode at any point.
Oh, I'm so excited to see Tommy Langaker in Europe. Yeah, Euros are always fun. We get a chance to see a lot of the grapplers across the pond, and people bring it for Euros. So looking forward to that. Other than that, I got nothing else going on. Miranda, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host.
Miranda.
And we have the Grappling Conjectures. And that, what it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.